Hey, welcome to a very special edition of Properties and Beers. Most investors are going to wait to see who wins the election in a few months to see what policies they propose for properties. But here's the thing: the smart ones are already positioning themselves to win, and that's what I wanted to chat to you about today. First things first, if you're here for the first time, welcome. And if you're here for the umpteenth time, welcome back. Now, if you've been here before, you know the deal. We get some sort of alcoholic beverage or non-alcoholic in some cases. Today, we have a very special beverage, one of my favorites. It's a HM Gin Chili Edition. Um, and I haven't had this one for about 6 months, so let's give it a go. But if you're here watching, drop me a line, say hi. Oh, that bites back. I should have mixed that with some soda, but it is delicious. Um, so, here, welcome. Uh, for those that don't know me, my name's Gaurav Gupta. I'm the owner and founder of Ethical Property Investments. We help Aussies every single day invest in cash flow positive properties that actually make a difference to society. Um, and so here's the thing, right? We have an election weekend coming up, and I wanted to chat about both that as well as impact and what it means to us. So, a lot of people, when they get into property, they look at speculating. Oh, is it going to grow? Is it going to do this? Is it going to do that? And yes, you know what? Politics does affect property, but not the long term. And that's the thing, right? So, there are some things which can happen in the election this weekend which could make or break your portfolio. If you've invested in a speculative area and the wrong policies get implemented, then yes, it could break your portfolio. But if you invested in great areas that are sort of always going to have that demand for first home buyers or even the second home buyer market, they will continue being solid in terms of growth. And people, here's the thing, right? Policies change, markets shift, and what about wealth? Well, here's the thing: wealth follows strategies and not politics. We have a choice between, I guess, I like to say, Labor and Greens, or Labor by themselves, and the Liberal national parties here in Australia. And whatever your belief is, I personally believe that. The more tax breaks we get from either party, the more it comes out of our taxation dollars, and that's really important to know. Um, I am I'm a fan of the government allowing the private industry to build properties because that allows for a lot more. What do you call it? That allows for a lot more sharper market pricing. It doesn't. We're not beheld to, I guess, the overpayment that the governments have historically paid the unions and what have you. I'm also not a fan of anything taxing our superannuation more, and I'm quite a while away from getting access to my superannuation. But I think it's kind of, I haven't really voiced my opinion on certain parties until now, but I'm really not a fan of this taxation of superannuation over $3 million. Now they're saying it's only going to affect about half a percent of the population. Yes, but it's not indexed. So a lot of people at my age or younger who've worked hard their entire lives, bought property, in their superannuation when they were young, or even started investing in a decent portfolio when they were in their 20s. They will get taxed at the same rate as a company tax. Now, here's the thing: when we first started investing, we were promised 15% tax, and I think it's really unfair that we get taxed at that higher rate. And it really is unfair that they tax it at a rate that they didn't promise us to tax. And what that's going to do, my prediction is that if that law gets passed, a lot of people take the money out of the super funds, the investing in smaller companies, and they'll put into these big mega industry funds, whether or not intentionally, that supports the union. These larger super funds are actually union controlled a lot of the time. So just be careful about that kind of thing. And look, it may not affect you now, but have a look at the sliding scale of the future when you look to invest with any sort of housing policy. But look, here's the thing, right? The other thing I wanted to chat about as well is wealth follows strategy, not politics. Most investors, they're reactive. They wait for the outcome of the election. They wait a while after that. And the leaders kind of position before the results, right? The leaders position the property strategy before the results. But here's what we know: the housing policy will shift depending on which government's in place for that minute of time. Taxation rules are going to change, and lending conditions are going to tighten or ease depending on who's in power at any point in time. Labor's going to keep the lending conditions the same. Liberals are proposing an easing of the lending rules, especially for people that are tested at 3% higher. So if you're buying a home right now, and let's say the interest rate is 6.5%, you've basically got to be able to service the loan at 9.5%, even as an owner occupier, which I believe is a little bit unfair. So those are some things that we want to have a look at for this election. Yes, the government's not giving any money away from free. Tax break in one area is equal to tax recovery in another. Daniel, that is so true. Um, you know, no one's getting any money for free. A break means they're getting it from somewhere, and you've got to decide who's got the more physical policy, because at the end of the day, you, the taxpayer, are paying for it, right? What a concept. Um, Here's the thing: if you understand the rules, don't fear the game. You leverage it. And at the same time, investing without watching the election and watching who you're going to vote for, that's risky. But with the right insights, elections, yes, they may slow us down slightly, but they won't stop us depending on what portfolio we have. And the aim of every property investor, I believe, should be able to have a portfolio strong enough to both withstand election and provide a lot of housing that's desperately needed out there. That's my honest belief for people that are investors. A lot of just because you've got a few properties doesn't mean you're a mega multi gazillionaire. It just means you're providing housing for people that need it. And the more we try to get the government to pay for housing, the more it's going to the more inefficiencies in the market. The most efficient market is investors like you and I that can really help ease this housing crisis. That's my genuine belief for the longest time. So here we go. I've got to better have a sip, right? While we're talking about the housing crisis, right? The housing crisis isn't just news; it's your opportunity. There's a lot of noise out there. There's vacancy rates, planning laws, housing affordability debates. But what are the fundamentals? Here's the thing: housing demand won't disappear. It's not like it's going down tomorrow. I've heard some ridiculous things like, oh, Australia's going to have an outflux of people. No, not really. Not anytime soon. Even with the outcome of this election, unless something really outstandingly crazy happens, people are going to stay here and they want to continue staying here. Um, and here's the thing: when the laws change, smart investors adjust. The smart investors, for example, when the taxation laws came into Victoria, have held on to the property. The investors that weren't really sure, they haven't held on to the property. And here's the thing: if you've been a smart investor over the last 3-4 years in Victoria, guess what? I believe once again a super cycle is about to happen, and you're in perfect timing to take advantage of that super cycle. You know, uh, I also wanted to chat about the housing debate. So people saying the cost of housing is getting higher. Well, here's the thing: did you know that the taxes on building a house have gone up by 50% over the last 5 years across Australia on average? That's right. So the price of building a house, 25% on average was taxes. That's gone to over 50%. And the sources, I believe, is the Australian Bureau of Statistics. You're welcome to check this out. If you want to know more, I'm more than happy to put it in the chat. Uh, Here's the thing, right? It's important to study the policy so you can profit with confidence. And while most people see certainty, it's important to see leverage and what you can leverage to make it beneficial, no matter who's in power at the moment, because the system isn't broken. I believe it's underutilized. Look, let's be honest. Both people running for the top job are property investors. It's not like it's going to be the worst thing on the planet. Regardless of not, they do have an intrinsic value, I believe, they have their own value set into actually building their own portfolio. Now, we've had a lot of chat about the election. If someone wants to chat about the election, drop me a line. If you're watching, howdy, how's it going? With my software, unfortunately, I can't see who is watching unless you drop me a line here on the chat. Chili Gin, Jan, get onto it. You're going to love this chili gin. For those watching along at home, HM Gin, purchased at the Royal Easter Show here in Melbourne. Great gin. Um, and here's the thing: let's chat about one more of our core values. Impact, the non-negotiable. If your portfolio doesn't change lives, what's it really worth? While others chase quick win, sorry, you know, what here's my belief. While others chase quick wins, we build ethical portfolios. And we've seen that recently. Just today, there's been a huge news article about Cocoon SDA, and I've been harping on about their model not being right for the last 4 years, and now they're finally being investigated for not doing the right thing, for providing these rental guarantees. Um, to to say, hey, we're going to give you a rental guarantee for building SDA house, which is complete bullshit. Never happened, never would have happened, and even more, it's really unethical the way they structured it. So, if you're going to look at who you're working with, look at the people that have done things for impact and been applauded for that. I mean, we've won. We're proud to have actually won some awards on this. We've won the Gold Stevie Awards last year on impact. Real impact, real life change, and I believe we're just getting started with that. Um, I personally believe that specialist disability accommodation housing restores dignity for people where they don't have to, if built right, they don't have to live in hospitals, nursing homes, and all of that sort of stuff. Co-living builds communities, and developments that prioritize human outcomes and strong returns are really important, because impact isn't charity, it restores dignity. And that's really important to know. And it works. Instead, we've won the awards, a global award, by the way, for it, because do good, make money, repeat. That is the system. It's as simple as that. And this is the only kind of portfolio I really want to back. Uh, that is our standard. Impact is one of our absolute core values, and I love living that thing every single day. Um, Thanks, guys. This has been a bit of a rant. Any questions about the elections, impact, anything like that? Um, just to be aware, so some of the Labor's policies are they've got the Housing Future Fund, which is going to invest in housing sometime in the future. I know they're building a few houses right now. None of them are complete yet. There is talk of them working on negative gearing. That may or may not happen, but they've definitely tried to put into place changing the taxation rules on self-managed super funds if your balance is over 3 million, but it's also not indexed. So it means if you're in your 30s right now, or even in your 40s, this is likely going to affect you in the future. It's going to be up to 30% of people affected in the future. So I think that's a really important thing to do, to really rally against that, in my personal opinion, because I don't feel like superannuation should be taxed more. It should be a haven where this is our nest egg. We should be putting money aside so we don't have to depend on the government for a pension at a later stage. That's what superannuation was originally designed for, and it's a great tool for that. And the tax incentive for that was given because it's going to cost you and I, the taxpayer, less. When someone sort of gets their pension in the future, so that's kind of a really important thing to do. Um, and Libs, they've got a policy. They actually implemented the policy initially of the 5% house deposit. Both Labor and Liberals supporting that. Libs also have, they're going to, I was speaking to Michael Sukker not too long ago, they're going to look at cutting some of that red tape that councils have right now. I think that's a great strategy. And they're going to allow for tax deductible repayments for up to $650,000 off a purchase of your owner occupier house. So we can treat that like a negatively geared or investment property, which I think is a really smart thing, because I like that kind of tax cut, right? We're not giving something, we're getting a tax cut for doing the right thing. And instead of someone being stuck as a renter, they have the chance to get a leg up on their own home. I don't personally believe that'll raise the market too much in terms of property prices, because it really is a first home buyer market, and they're capping it to 650K. Those are some of my thoughts. So segment, here's the thing. What is your next move? My suggestion is don't wait for policy to decide your future. Invest like a leader. Melbourne, in my belief, is shaping up for a capital growth super cycle. And while policy is going to, shape the details, the demand is baked in. There's still tenancy demand, and smart investors act before the votes are counted. And even though the votes are being counted this weekend, I think it's really important, regardless of which direction, the smart investors will move, regardless of where we're headed. Um, and here's the thing: my belief is, if you're waiting for clarity, this is it. Plan with purpose, and always do good and make money. Um, this is Property and Beers. And so, guys, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. If you're watching, thank you. If you're watching this recorded, thank you as well. Looking forward to catching up with you guys in the near future.